So you can see here is the conclusion of this tutorial. Can you see the output? Very smart. This is the hem, the sleeve. Can you see? Here is it. Here is the back. Very smart and flat at the back. So thanks for watching. Good day everyone, you're welcome back to this channel. Now in today's video, I'll be sharing with you how to make a beautiful princess dart v-neck blouse with balloon sleeve. So I'm going to take you through step by step on how you can get it perfectly done, okay? So if this is what you're interested in, keep on watching and let's get started. Thanks. So as you can see right here, I will be using an African print, okay? So, and I'll be working with the front piece first. Now, in working with the front piece, I will have to determine the amount of fabric to cut. Now, since I will be adding a peplum to the down part, so I will be making use of the length of half cut, okay? So, and the half cut for this tutorial is 16 inches. So I'll be adding extra 1 inch to it as my allowance at the down part, okay? So right now I'm going to fold my fabric into two like I'm doing right now. So I have the bust circumference for this tutorial to be 36 inches, while the waist circumference is 30 inches, which means that I will be making use of the biggest part, which is the bust circumference. So right now after I'll look for the 1/4 of the bust circumference. Now 36 divided by 4 will give me 9 inches, so I will be adding like 4 inches extra to it, okay? So which will give me the total of 13 inches. So half of 1/4 of the bust circumference will be 13 inches. You can see that this fabric is on fold, so I will be measuring 13 inches, okay, from the top to the down. So I'm going to measure. Now I have excess here. I want to reduce it so that I can save fabric. So 13 inches. So I'm going to, why? So I make sure that it's 13 inches. Like I said, is just the essence of saving fabric. So I'm okay here. I have like 13.5 inches. It's okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead. I'm going to cut like this, okay? And also determine the length. The total length will give me 17 inches. That is 16 plus 1.1 inches for the hem allowance. So I'm going to go right now and cut it 17 inches and cut it this way. I hope you understand. So as you can see right here, I went ahead to cut it out. So we can now start in full. Now it's on fold already, as you can see right here, okay? It's on fold. So right now this becomes my center front, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do right here is to quickly mark my reference line, or is to mark my zero line. So I'm going to mark my zero line, and this is a line, a starting line, okay? This line is going to be a line on which I'm going to impute the half of my shoulder line and also my neck width. So having marked my zero line, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and mark from this zero line. I'm going to mark my bust line, which is 10 inches. So I mark 10 inches for the bust line. Then for the half cut, length of the half cut is 16 inches. So I will also go ahead and mark 16 inches, and I have it right here, okay? So this line, I'm going to connect this line straight. So I go ahead and connect. So having connected that, I will also go to the waistline and do likewise. So here is the half cut line. So I'm going to connect like I'm doing right now. So I connect. So after that, the next thing for me to do is to go to the zero line and mark my neck width and also the half of my shoulder line. So here is the zero line. So I will mark the neck width. I'll be using the 3.5 inches standard. So I have it right here. So having marked it, I will also go ahead and mark the half of my shoulder line. My shoulder line in this case is 15 inches divided by 2 will give me 7.5, and you can see here is it. So I'm going to mark it. So from that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, okay? So I mark. So I have it right here. So from this point, I'm going to connect straight to the neck width. So I'm going to connect right now to the neck width. So I have it right here. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do from this point, this shoulder slope, I'm going to measure my armhole length. So in this case, I will be using 7.5 inches. My previous video, I told you how to calculate your armhole length. Okay, it's just the bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Okay, so right now, having marked that point, so the next thing I'm going to do is simply to connect these to the shoulder slope. After connecting to the shoulder slope, I will now go ahead and mark the half of my bust circumference, so that it will be easy for me to create my armhole curve. Okay, so as you can see, I've connected that of the armhole line. So on that point, I'm going to mark my 1/4 of my bust circumference. The bust circumference for this is 36 inches divided by 4 will give me 9 inches. So I have it right here. So it will be very easy for me right now to create my armhole curve, but before then I will connect these to that point. Okay, so after connecting to that point, the next thing I'm going to do to create my armhole curve, naturally the front panel, the armhole curve of the front panel is naturally a bit deeper than that of the back. So right, that is the essence of me looking for the midpoint of this armhole line. And 7.5 divided by 2, I have 3.75. I have it right here. Okay, so from that point, I'm going to come in by half an inch. Okay, you could come in by 0.75 inch, but in my own case here, I'm coming in by half an inch. Okay, so I'm going to mark it right there. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect with my ruler from this point to this armhole slope or shoulder slope. So I'm going to connect straight. So after connecting to that point, so the down part is to create a curve to meet the bust, the 1/4 of the bust circumference. So from this point here, I'm going to come up by just half an inch. Okay, so I will come up by half an inch. So from that point, I will just go ahead. You could use your French curve, and if you could also use your free hand. Okay, so I will just go ahead and connect. We go ahead and connect to that point, create a curve at that point. Okay, so after creating a curve right there, okay, I will have to pass through that 0.5 that I came up with. So I have to pass through that 0.5. So this side will be eliminated. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and determine the bust span. Now the bust span simply means it's just a distance from one nipple to the other. But in this case, it's 7.5 inches divided by 2. I will be having 3.75 inches. But I will be adding extra 0.5 to it. So 3.57 or 3.75 inches plus 0.5 will give me the total of 4.25 inches. So on this center front, I'm going to place my measuring tape like I'm doing right now. So I mark that 4.25 inches. So I have it right here. Okay, so the down part, which is the waistline, instead of me marking that same 4.25 inch, I'm going to remove 0.5 from it. So I will be marking 3.75 inches right on this end. half cut line. Okay, so I have it right here. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to simply connect this to this. So I will go ahead and connect. So having connected to that down part, the next thing is to come to this armhole line. Okay, this armhole line, from this point here, I'm going to just connect to this bust. Okay, you could use your curve, you could use your free hand. I will just go ahead and connect. So like this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do right now, I'm going to come down by 0.5 from this point. I have it here, 0.5. You could come down by 3/4 of an inch, or that is 0.75. Okay, so either of the two. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to connect this to this. But before I do that, I'm going to come up from this same bust line by 1 inch. So I'm going to connect this to this, and I also connect this to this. Okay, so I connect. So also the same thing with this, I will also connect. Okay, so as you can see right here, I've connected the line. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and impute my bust circumference. So it is on this chest line. I'm going to do that. So I've already marked 1/4 of the bust circumference here, which is 9 inches. So I'm going to, from there, I'm going to mark 1 inch. Okay, I'm going to mark 1 inch for joining. Now, after marking 1 inch for joining, the half plus half an inch here gives me 1 inch. I will go ahead and mark another 1 inch. After marking that 1 inch, then I will now mark my seam allowance. So I will be using the seam allowance of 2 inches. So I have it right here. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go straight. This one here has already replaced this, so I won't bother to touch this one. Okay, so the next thing is to go straight to the bust, I mean to the waist circumference. Now the waist circumference for this is 30 inches. 30 divided by 4 will give me 7 inches, and I have it right here. So I mark. So I'm going to add 1 inch for the joining. Okay, 1 inch for the joining. The joining is after cutting this into two, after slashing this, I will have to use 0.5 on both sides to hold it together. That's the essence of this 1 inch. So I will now proceed and add my seam allowance of 2 inches. So I have it right here. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to connect. So I'm going to connect straight from this point to this point. So after connecting, then I will also connect also here to meet this. So the next thing I'm going to do right now, okay, is this center 1, 2, 3. The center line here, I'm going to extend this center line by 1 inch. So from that point, I'm going to mark 1 inch outward, and I have it right here. So I'm going to extend that line like this. So after extending that line, then I can now create another curve. So I'm going to create another curve like I'm doing right now. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go to the shoulder line. The shoulder line, I'm going to mark 0.5 upwards like this to the shoulder slope. From the shoulder slope, I mark 0.5 upward, and also the neck width, I'm going to do likewise. I mark 0.5 inch upward. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is just to connect this line to this line. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to mark my v-neck. So from that point, it depends on how deep you want yours to be, but it shouldn't be too deep, okay, so that it won't expose your body. So I'll be using from that 3.5 inch. You can see how I place it. I place it on that neck width. From that neck width, I'm going to mark 6.5 inches, okay. You could mark like 6 inches or 7 inches, okay, but it shouldn't be too long. So I'm going to connect straight to the neck width like I'm doing right now. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and cut. At this juncture, if you like this video, please kindly give it a big thumbs up. So right now I'm going to proceed. I'm going to cut. So after that, I will go ahead. So after this, I'm going to go ahead right now and cut. So after cutting like so, the next thing I'm going to do right now, I will have to eliminate this and remove this and also this side, okay. So right now I'm going to proceed. It has to be done in such a way that it doesn't affect the extension, okay. So the next thing I'm going to go to this. I'm going to remove this also. So it's going to have a facing. So all I need to do is just to place it like this on the facing and I cut it out, okay. So after this, so the next thing is to move to the back panel. So I'm just trying to make this place to be of the same rhyme together, okay. So we are done with cutting the front piece. So the next thing is to go ahead and cut the back piece, okay. So here is the back piece. So the first thing I'm going to do right here is to mark my zipper seat because it's going to have a zipper. So I'm going to use 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance, okay. You could use 2 inches, okay, but in my own case I will be using 1.5 inches. So I'm marking from up to the down part. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and connect these lines together. So as you can see, I haven't marked my zipper's seat line. The next thing is just to go ahead and mark my zero line. So sorry, so this is my zero line. So from that point, from that zero line, I'm going to go straight and mark my bust line, which is 10 inches. Then the half cut line 16 inches, and I have it right here. So I'm going to go ahead right now and connect these lines together. So after connecting these lines together, the next thing right now, after connecting the lines together, I will go ahead and mark my neck width. Okay, so I will be using the same neck width I use for the front piece, which is 3.5 inches. Now it is from this line, okay, this line, not on this piece, please. So I mark 3.5 inches inward, then half of my shoulder line, which is 7.5 inches, that is the 15 divided by 2. I have it right here. So from that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, this is just a repetition of what I did in the front panel. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and connect the shoulder slope to the neckline width. So after this, from there, I'm going to come down by 7.5 inches, which is for my armhole length. And I have it right here. So I'm going to connect straight to the shoulder slope. So I will be connecting to the shoulder slope like I'm doing right now. Okay, so after connecting to the shoulder slope, I'm going to mark 1/4 of my bust circumference, which is 9 inches. You can see where I place it, not on this. Okay, so I'm going to mark 9 inches. I have it right here. So after marking that, I'm going to connect straight to that point. So after connecting straight to that point, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to mark my the bust span, which is with the total of 4.25 inches. So you know how I got my 4.25 inches. That is half of the bust span plus 0.5. So on the waistline, I'm going to mark just 3.75 inches. So I have it. So the next thing is just to connect this to this. Okay, so after connecting to that, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to create my armhole curve. So I'm going to look for half of this 7.5 inches, which is 3.75 inches, and I have it right here. Now in the case of the back armhole, you don't come in by anything. It is on that point I'm going to create my curve, okay, downward. So all I need to do from this point, I can just come out like 0.75 and go ahead and create my curve to meet what I have on the chest line. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do right now, from this point, I'm going to come up by half an inch. That is from the center point of the armhole line. So from there, I'm just going to connect to this. Okay, so if we use anything slight curve, it must not be too sharp. So you could use your free hand and you could use anything a curve tool, but one thing is that it must not be too sharp. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is from that point I'm going to come out by just 1 inch. The reason why I have to come out by 1 inch, so that by the time I join this one, it will not be shorter than this. So I connect straight to that. After that, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and impute my circumference. The bust circumference is 9 inches. I've already marked it here. I'm going to add 1 inch for the joining. So the rest of it, I have like 1.5 inches. So I'm going to use the total of what I have right here. So that is why when you are considering the amount of fabric to use, you add at least 5 inches instead of using, I will use 4 inches. You add at least 5 inches so that you can have excess fabric. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to go straight to the waistline. So the waist is 30 inches divided by 4. I have 7 inches. So I mark. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 1 inch for the joining. Okay, since I have 1.5 inches for the seam allowance, so I will go ahead and mark that same 1.5 inches for the seam allowance. Okay, so which means that in the front panel I'm going to remove like 0.5 inch from it so that it will rhyme at the end of the day. So the next thing I'm going to do is simply to connect this to that point here. So I connect. So after connecting, the next thing I'm going to do right now, let me recreate this curve. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to create, because of this 1 inch extension, so I have to recreate another curve right here. Okay, so this becomes my new armhole curve. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go to the shoulder line here, I mean the shoulder slope here, and come up by half an inch to create an allowance on the shoulder line. So the neck width here, I also come up by half an inch. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to connect this together. Okay, so I proceed, I connect straight to that. So after that, I can now create the depth of the back depth. So for the back depth, it depends. So I will be using, because I want it to be high, I don't want it to be too low. So I'll be using 1.5 inch. You could use 1 inch, okay, but I'll be using 1.5. So from this shoulder neckline width, I'm going to create a curve, a slight curve to meet that point. So it has to be here. Sorry, it has to be here, because this is the back piece. So I will just go ahead and connect. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then cut it out. So the back piece does not have a dart here, and that is why I did not have any dart at that point. Okay, so the next thing is just go ahead, follow the line and cut it out like I'm doing right now. So from that point I cut. So the next thing is to go ahead and cut. So having cut it out like this, so I can now open this, because it has to be 2. Okay, so but before I do that, I'm going to notch this place so that it will serve as a guide for me when I'm to fix my zipper. So I'm going to notch here. Okay, so I will also go ahead and notch at the down part, but this very upper part is very important. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and open it. So in opening it, you have to be careful that the width of this is no longer than the other. So you place your hand very well like I'm doing right now, and I will now go ahead and open. So right now I have it like this. Can you see? It's going to overlap like this at the end of the day. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and use this to cut the facing. Okay, I'll be right back. So have a look at it. I've cut the interface, I mean the facing, for all the pieces, both for the front panel and for the back panel. So here are they. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to cut the sleeves. So I'm going to keep this aside while I cut the sleeve. So it depends on the length of the sleeve you want to make for yourself. But in my own case, I will be making using the length of like 16 inches because of the fabric I have here. So it's okay for me like this. So the next thing I'm going to do, you can see already is unfold. Now I'm going to refold it again the second time. So I'm going to refold it again. So making sure that they are of equal width and even length. Okay. So we can now start. So from the upper part here, I'm going to measure downward 4 inches. So I will be measuring downward with 4 inches. 4 inches downward. So I come here, I mark 4 inches downward. Okay. So from this point, I'm going to, this is going to serve as the center of my sleeve, okay, where there is no joining. Please take note of that. So from that point, I'm going to go and connect this line to this. I will quickly do that. Let me quickly connect that line. Haven't come down by 4 inches from the edge. So from that point, I'm going to place it right from this center point. I'm going to mark 7.5 inches inwards. Okay. So I will advise you that in the armhole, just measure the armhole so that you know what you are going to measure as the width of this. Okay. So I'm marking 7.5 inches. So from here, I'm going to mark like 3 inches or 2.75 inches. Okay, from this point. So from that edge, I'm going to make a curve, create a curve from this edge. Okay, I'm creating a curve from that edge to meet this 7.5 inches. So I will advise that you pin it down very well so that it does not shake here and there. It does not move from that particular point it ought to be. So I'm going to go ahead right now and then pin it down so that by the time I open it, I will have equal width of the fabric. So I've pinned it down, as you can see right here. So haven't drawn the curve, so I'm going to remeasure again. Just go ahead and remeasure. So I ought to have like 10 inches. You can see this is 9.5 inches. So I will just make an extension at the down part. You extend it. So you extend it up to this point, okay, to give you that 10 inches after measuring the armhole on the main fabric. Okay, so from this point right here, I'm going to measure, I'm going to connect. So the base here, after measuring what you have here, or the total after measuring what you have here, okay, you are going to add at least like 5 inches to the base. So for example here, I have the total of like 8 inches. So 8 plus 5 will give me 13. So at the base here, it means the width of the 1/4 of what you are folding, because this is 4 pieces, the 1/4 of it ought to be like 13 inches to have that balloon effect. So the bigger it is, the bigger the balloon will come out very well. Okay, so In my own case, because I have a shortage of fabric, you can see I have like 11.5 here. So it ought to be like 12.5 or 13.5. So the more the space at the down part, the fuller your balloon will become. Okay. So right now I will just use it like that. From this point, I'm going to connect straight to this tip here. So if you want, there's another way you can do it. If you want pleating at this part, then you are going to, from this point, if you want pleating at the edge of your sleeve, the top part of your sleeve, then you are going to start from exactly the length of this, the width of this. You are going to start and connect, so that by the time you cut it out, you pleat this side to meet this, okay, to meet this length. But in my own case, I want it to be free here, and that is why I stop here. Okay, then I will connect to this point. So I will just go ahead and connect straight like this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then cut. So I'm going to cut right now. So in order not to waste fabric, so you just have to open it at the down part here, so that I don't waste, because the fabric is not even enough for me. So you just go ahead, then and cut. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do right now is to open it and place it right side to right side. So I'm going to place this like this first, then I place this to this, so it's right side to right side. After placing it like that, or like this, so I'm going to fold it again. I'm just trying to make sure that they are of equal length. Okay, that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to refold it. Now I'm going to refold it. After refolding it like this, then I can now go ahead and reshape one of the edge. Or so I'm going to take just two pieces, as you can see. So I'm going to reshape it, just that two pieces. So I reshape. So you can see. So after doing that, I will just go and notch this center of the edge. I will notch just a little. After notching, the next thing I'm going to do, if you like, you can cut your facing to it, but if you don't like, just leave it like that. In my own case, I may decide just to leave it like this. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to fold it in like 0.75 inches, after using like 2.5 inch. Okay, because the fabric is not excess, so I'm going to use this just little like this. Then I fold it to the width of my band. I'll be using the tiny elastic of like 0.5. So you can see, after folding it that way, then I'll use like this point. If I mark this, you will discover that it's like 0.5. That is the width of the tiny elastic which I will be using 0.5. So I'm going to fold it like that. After folding it, and I stitch this edge downward, then from this opening here, I'm going to pass my elastic inward. After that, then I sew it to the main fabric, to the bodies. Okay, so that is that. I hope you have gained a lot in this tutorial. If you have find this tutorial very helpful, please and please give it a big thumbs up. So By the time I finish sewing everything together, you are going to see the output or the result of this tutorial. Thank you very much. So I've sealed with like 0.5 at the down part of this sleeve. So I'm going to proceed right now. What I'm going to do is to measure the circumference of my width, okay, of my sleeve. So you first measure because it's going to be 3/4. So I have like about 10.5. I have like 10.5 here. So I'm going to add 0.5 to that. So I will be measuring 11 inches. So I'll be measuring 11 inches for one of the sleeves. So the length of which is going to be 11 inches. So I have 11 inches right here. This is what I will be cutting. But because it's two sleeves, so I'm going to remeasure it to have two of this. So I'm going to go ahead right now and cut. So I'm going to cut. So I have it right here. So I can now cut this into two equal parts. Okay. So I'm going to use my safety pin and pass it through one of these edge. Then I insert it into the hole which I have right here. Okay. So right now, this is my safety pin. I'm going to insert into the edge right here. So I'll start from one of the openings. So I insert it like this. So I insert from one edge to the other. So I'm going to insert right now. So right now, can you see? So I'm going to bring it out. So I'll make sure that I'm holding one edge here. So you can see I've inserted it. By the time I join it together, so I'm going to place it each other for you to see. So at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that I place it. Then you can see the effect already. Can you see the effect already? So if you have a fuller one, you discover that it will be more full than this. So this is how it's going to come out. You can see the effect has been shown. So this is how it's going to be at the end of the day. So the next thing for me is just to stitch the both edge, after which I attach it to the bodies of the uh blouse. Okay,